Okay, we are holding at the Perek Shmini of Tomer Devorah. To remind you, to refresh your memories, we're going through the different spheros and understanding how it works tachlis. What are we supposed to do about the fact of midas Yesod or midas Netzach or what are we supposed to do about it? So we're up to, we did Chesed Gevurah Tiferes, and now we're up to, with the Tomer Devorah, triples together, which is Netzach, Hoid, and Yesod. So that's Perek Shmini, Heyach, Yargil, Ha'adam, Asmai, V'midais, Netzach, Hoid, Yesod. And the principle is that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu created the world, there was an Or Echad, or Pashut, Tachlis HaEchad, and put it through the spheros, look at it like a prism, and hence the Bria that we see around us. And it's not just the physical Bria that you see, trees and oceans and beautiful people, but it's actually the Ruchnius of the Bria also goes through this, and all of these spheros culminate in a person. That's why if you look at the Kabbalistic charts, it'll always be in the Tzuras HaAdam. The Tzuras HaAdam, Komas HaAdam as it's called in Lashon of Kabbalah. The Komas HaAdam is the spheros, because all of these spheros culminate in a person. So it's important that we identify, discover, and act upon the Chesed, which is in us. That seems to be easy. The Chesed, the Gevurah, all these different. When it gets to Netzach and Hod, let's talk about those two, which always go together. Remember, the spheres are Chesed, Gevurah, Tiferes, Netzach, and Hod, and then Yesod. So Yesod is like Keser, meaning it's, and then Malchus. So you have like two branches that are called. Don't get worried about all the Kabbalah. It doesn't make any difference. I'm just saying that those are called the Shukayim to the Bria, the thighs, the legs, Netzach and Hod. So that's like an Amud. You're starting to get very earthy in the Bria, where it's not an esoteric idea, but it's like Malchus is the ultimate earthliness. Malchus is when the earth permeates Ruchnius. That's what we want with Mashiach. Yesod is, going backwards, Yesod is where all of that Ruchnius of the Bria, spirituality, ethereal godliness starts to hit ground. Yosef, Midas Yesod, Yosef Hayad b'Mitzrayim. Yosef was like being Mekadosh Gashmias in Mitzrayim. He was busy in Mitzrayim. Mitzrayim is the ultimate Gashmias. Malchus, that's Mashiach ben Yosef. Then there's Mashiach ben David, which is the ultimate in Malchus. Yeah. So before that, so it's easy to, it's relatively easy to understand Chesed and Gevurah and Tiferes, which is, it mixes the two things together, and then sort of a balance, if you will. It's easy to understand, relatively easy to understand Yesod and Malchus. It's very difficult. I always had a difficult time understanding Netzach and Hod, like particularly Hod. What does it even mean? And here the Tomer Devorah does not explain, so I have to. Heich yargul adam atzvei midas Netzach Hod Yesod. Ulam b'sikunei hanetzach v'ahoy ksasam meshutafim l'shneim ksasam miyuchadim kol echad la'atzmai. On the one hand, each one of these principles, Netzach, Hod, and Yesod, are interconnected, and on the other hand, they're independent concepts. That's what all that means. Netzach, Hod, ksasam, specifically Netzach and Hod, ksasam meshutafim l'shneim. Part of them are interrelated. Uksasam miyuchadim. And some of them, and in a different way, they're independent concepts, kol echad la'atzmo, each one to itself. And then he goes on to say what we should do. Let's just read it, and then I want to go back there. Hine rishayna tzarech l'sayei eloim de Torah. First thing is you have to support people to learn Torah. Lachzikam, to give them all the support they need, im b'mamoinoi, or b'masehu, whether you're helping them, the Talmidei Chachamim, with your money or with your actions, lahazmin, lahem tzarchei shimush, take care of their needs, v'hazmanas mazoin, ha'fakas kol ritzaynam, shalai yisbatlu midivrei Torah, lizar shalai laganis talmudam, shalai yisraplu me'ez hagat Torah. Supporting Torah. What's that have to do with anything? Nice thing, but what does that have to do with anything? Because Netzach is Torah. Netzach means eternal. So Netzach is Torah. So support Torah. He doesn't explain it, but it's a davar pashut. The Netzach is Torah. And the way to deal with Torah is to support it or learn it. But what he's saying is that supporting it is more like an amud of Netzach than even learning it. L'chabdam, to be mechabed Talmidei Chachamim, l'halol ma'aseyim, to speak nicely about Talmidei Chachamim. Kedei shischasku ba'avodah lahazmin lam svarim. There's a certain Yetzer hara to speak against Talmidei Chachamim. I'm not sure where it comes from. I think in the world, it's I think not here. I don't mean here. But in the world at large, the world of Balabatim at large, there's something about bringing down Talmidei Chachamim. I'm not sure what the problem there is. There's a little kina and a little bit of I always think to myself. I always explain to myself that people are in business. They're a CEO. They're telling 100 people what to do, and this rabbi who's half his age is telling him what to do. So how does that work out? Like that's so push. There's a lot of different dynamics, but the point is that the kiyum netzach in a person, the way to be Makayim Netzach is by being Mahalel and supporting a Talmud Chacham and Mahana Talmud Chacham and a Chassav. It's a tremendous thing to get a piece of that.
Why doesn't he say oneself should be engrossed?
That's what I'm saying, because we're talking about, first of all, I guess we're talking about for everybody, but even if you are a Talmud Chacham, there's a special inyan to support the Talmud Chacham. The union of Netzach Ohid is to support Talmud Chacham. I think I could explain why.
Doesn't also say that Am Yisrael is Netzach?
Yeah. Yisrael v'Araisa v'Kudsha Brichu. They're all Netzach. But don't forget that the Nitzchias of Klal Yisrael is dependent on Torah. Without Torah, there's no Nitzchias of Klal Yisrael. So, let's just finish the paragraph. Kadesh yischasku ba'avodah lahazmin lam svarim. That was a big deal in the 16th century, 15th century. To get svarim means, the beginning, probably before the Gutenberg press, to get svarim for Talmidei Chacham that they could learn. Tzarich iskam u'beis medrash, build them a building. V'chol k'yotzei shu chizik v'sad lo iskei Torah. Anything that's giving support to Torah. Hakol toli b'shtei midos halalu. And it's totally in two midos of Netzach and Hod. Kol echad kifi koichai hamatu imrav soif davar. What the summation of this is, Kol ma sheyarba b'zel l'chabed atar la'atzika b'dibur b'gufa b'mamayna l'orelei v'abriyas ha'atar sheyischasku by. Anything you're doing for Torah, Kol nechaz v'nishrash, it all comes down to the shtei shviras elu b'mnei shehem nikri machzikim ba. You see, machzikim ba v'samcha. We're talking about specifically the midah is not the midah. Learning Torah is a different midah, but the supporting of Torah is the supporting of Netzach and Hod. So that's what he says. I'd like to take a few minutes to explain it. What's Netzach Hod? I was thinking this morning in the Zmiris, do you say this? Zmiris Shalshudas. Kel mistater. Should I teach you the nigga?
You're on.
Yeah.
All right. I think I'll pass. The Kel mistater b'shafar chavyoin. It's a very important Zmiris. It's Shalshudas Zmiris, and it's all based on the Spheros, which is one of the reasons I like it. So it starts with Chachma, Reishis, Teroscha, Ptuma, Rishuma, Chachmascha, Stuma, Me'ayin Timotza, V'hine Lama Reishis, Chachma, Yiras Hashem. Okay, so then we get to, there's a lot of information in this Zmiros about the Spheros. We read a sefer just on this one Zemer. But when it comes to Netzach and Hod, he says as follows. We sing as follows. This, by the way, just in my Zmiris here, it says, Hazemer kel mistater Chibru Rabbi Avram Maimon. It was written by Rabbi Maimon. Talmidai shel Rav Moshe Cordevaro. The Talmud of the Torah.
Not the son of the Rambam. No.
No. When you said al seder eser spheres, it's based on the 10 spheres. Kol chruz al sphera achas. Shehem, I'm just reading the introduction. Keser chachma bina chesed gvur tiferes netzach hoid yisod malchus. We know that, but that's what he says. So when he comes to netzach and hoid, he says as follows: Koschus avais yagein aleinu netzach Yisrael mitzarasenu ga'aleinu ibar galus delenu v'salenu l'natzeach al mlechas beis Hashem. That's not netzach yet. Here we go. Mi yamin u'mismal yenikas hanavim. Netzach v'hoid mehem nimtzayim. Yachin uvayaz b'shem nikrayim v'chol banayich limudei Hashem. This is what I want to explain in the next few minutes. Mi yamin u'mismal, from right and from left. Yenikas hanavim. The Nevi'im get their nevuah from. What's right and left? If you look at the spheres chart, Netzach and Hoid are right and left, just as Chesed and Gvura are right and left. Those are the only and Chachma and Bina are right and left, but that's Kel Mistatir. That's Mistatir. So Netzach and Hoid, Miyamin u'mismal, Yenikas hanavim. If you want to understand where nevuah comes from, it doesn't come from Chesed, Gvura, Tiferes. It comes from Netzach and Hoid. Miyamin u'mismal, Netzach Yenikas hanavim. The Yenika of the Nevi'im. Netzach v'hoid mehem nimtzayim, the manifestation of Netzach. Netzach means what? What's the right eternity? What else does Netzach mean? Victory. Right? Anything else? Lam Natseach. What does that mean?
Conductor.
Conductor. Okay, sure. 3 words. Anything else? Can't hear. Infinity? That's eternity. No?
There's also commemoration on Tzachar.
On Tzachar, to make something permanent. Victory. It's interesting, right? Victory and eternity.
They're connected because the victory is the one who's around for the long term. He stays, so he doesn't get erased by history. So we're the victors of history because we've stayed around. We've survived everything. It's good.
Yeah, I was invited a few years ago during the Lebanon War. When Lebanon was blasted, I guess with this house, so there was a chasana. So I was invited to speak under the chuppah. That's all. I guess they ran out of kibbutz. So they invited me to speak and asked me specifically to speak about the war and everyone should daven at the time of the chuppah for the chayalim. So I did. I spoke about Eretz Yisrael, and I spoke about the war, and I spoke about the chayalim, and we prayed for them and wished them hatzlacha. So standing next to me, the Sada Kedusha was Rav Steinsaltz. So in the middle of my speaking, he says, "Victory! Why don't you speak about victory?" so I'm like, so he says, "Nobody speaks about victory. Hatzlacha, the chayalim should have hatzlacha. They should be safe. There's a victory." So he took over by drasha, and he said that it's all about Eretz Yisrael. This is what he said. Eretz Yisrael is all about Netzach. It's all about Netzach. Netzach means victory. So the victory story. Miyaminu mismal yenikas hanavim. What the Nevi'im say automatically has an eternal value to it. So remember this, that Nevi'im, the Gemara says, Nevi'im haya b'Yisrael, kiflayim ki yotzei Mitzrayim. That there were so many Nevi'im in the history of Klal Yisrael, not a lot of Nevi'im, thousands and hundreds of thousands, kiflayim ki yotzei Mitzrayim were Nevi'im. So what do we have, Memches Nevi'im, Zayin Nevi'os? Why do we have so few Nevi'im if they're where'd they go? So the Gemara says, in Megillah, Nevuah shehutzricha l'dayros dichtavu. Nevuah sheloi hutzricha l'dayros lo dichtavu. If there were a lot of nevuahs, but they were not nogea us. So in order for something, what is the pshat dekibar? The pshat dekibar is in order for something to get into the Torah, in order for something to get canonized into the Torah, it has to have the quality of Netzach. So nevuah shehutzricha l'dayros. It's not every nevuah is not Netzach. sometimes a person can have Nevuah, you have Ruach HaKodesh, right? Tell you which stock to invest in, but that's not Netzach. So it means to say that if any, just thinking backwards about this, if anybody would ever say that, okay, this part of the Torah is not Nogeas any longer, it's perforce wrong, because the whole reason it's there is because it's Netzach. It's the very fact that it's in the Torah means that Baruch HaKodesh, it goes now, even Yeshayahu and Yirmiyahu said much more than what's in their book. Even Moshe Rabbeinu said much more than what's in his book. But what's in the Chumash is Netzach. That has to be Netzach. That's the criteria for getting in. Netzach. So Netzach v'Hod mehem nimtzayim. When the Netzach and the Hod, which we have available to us, comes from the Nevi'im. The Nevi'im gave us things which are Hutzur Cholodoros, which go on for Netzach. Then we have Yachinu Boaz B'Shem Nikrai. This is an amazing thing that when Shlomo Melech, this is his own Chiddush, I don't think it, by the Mishkan we don't have any such thing. The Shlomo Melech is Mechadish, that there should be two magnificent pillars in front of the Beis HaMikdash, the entrance to the Beis HaMikdash. Now pillars, the tachlis of a pillar is to hold up the roof. But these had nothing on top of it. So the first strange thing about these pillars is that they weren't holding up anything. So the lashon of the Ramchal, I believe, is that pillars usually hold up the roof, but these pillars held up the Shemayim. And the pillars represented two pillars. Like, would it be funny? Like you go brand new building, like Beis HaMikdash, and then there's two pillars. So that's what are these two pillars for? Magnificent pillars. Like what's the? It's funny to have two pillars just for no reason. And then, if that's not funny enough, he gave them names. Like who gives pillars names? Yachin and Boaz. Shalom Aleichem. This pillar's name is Yachin, and this pillar's name is Boaz. What's the? We don't even know what do those words even mean. Yachin and Boaz. So it's a strange thing. So here in the Zmiros we say Netzach v'Hod Behem Nimtzayim from the Nevi'im. Yachinu Vayaz B'Shem Nikroim. And the two pillars that Shlomo HaMelech put up in front of the Beis HaMikdash were called Yachin and Boaz. One was Keneged Netzach, and one was Keneged Hod. Because the whole Beis HaMikdash was Midas HaYesod. The whole Beis HaMikdash was where heaven touches earth, right? That's Midas HaYesod. We're a place where your Mekadesh Gashmis, bring Korbanos, etc., it's all from this world, all from this earth. Why don't we have a Beis HaMikdash now? Because we don't have Mashiach. Why don't we have Mashiach? Because we don't have Malchus. So Malchus, and what's the preempt to Malchus? Yesod. So the Beis HaMikdash is Yesod. Why didn't it last forever? Because it was Yesod and it wasn't Malchus. The Bayis Shlishi will be Malchus. With Mashiach. So we got as far as Mashiach ben Yosef, but we didn't get as far as Mashiach ben David.
First Beis Mashiach?
First Beis Hamikdash also, Kinirah. I think a fallacy that people think that, Rabbi Akiva supported Bar Kochba, who was a false Messiah. So like Tzarachion, Rabbi Akiva would have it. Rabbi Akiva didn't make mistakes. Rabbi Akiva, he didn't support Bar Kochba as Mashiach ben David. He supported Bar Kochba as Mashiach ben Yosef. He never meant that he was Mashiach ben David. He wasn't Davidic. He didn't have a Davidic dynasty. He wouldn't. But what he saw was that before there's a Mashiach ben David, Rabbi Akiva, before in order to bring Mashiach, there has to first be a Mashiach ben Yosef, and the Mashiach ben Yosef, like Yosef was B'Mitzrayim. The purpose, the tachlis of Mashiach ben Yosef is to be Masader the Gashmius of Klal Yisrael. And once you're Masader the Gashmius of Klal Yisrael, so now you can start talking about the Mashiach, about Malchus Beis David, which is the Ruchnius of Klal Yisrael. Rav Kook held that the modern state of Israel is a what's the word, a culminative.
Culmination.
Yeah, but that's what the word. A culminative Mashiach ben Yosef, meaning altogether. Okay, it's all together Like in other words, what he was saying, the Chiddush or Rav Kook is, I think it was Yartzeit yesterday, right? Kook 80th Yartzeit. But the whole, in other words, Mashiach ben Yosef is a concept, not even a person. That's the Chiddush, a concept, and it doesn't even have to be from. I'm not obvious. You don't need me to tell you that not everybody agrees with Rav Kook on this, but this is the issue. This is the machlokes of the times over here. Do they have to? Can it even be secular? But Rav Kook held it could even be secular. So Bar Kochba, like Rabbi Kiva supported Bar Kochba. This is not such like a kasha as Mashiach ben Yosef. And Yosef wasn't secular, but he was doing he was the CEO. I mean, he was a secular. So that's all Yesod. That's also. But in front of the Beis Hamikdash, the entrance into the Beis Hamikdash was Yachin and Boaz, two pillars with names that went nowhere and did nothing, and they represented Netzach. Yachin and Boaz represented Netzach and Hoyd. Comes the that's Yachin and Boaz. So it's beautiful. The Zmiris Binyaminu Mismol Yanikas Hanavim Netzach v'Hoyd Mehem Nimsayim. They come from them. Yachin and Boaz. B'Shem Nikrayim, that Shlomo HaMelech actually gave them a name. I think it was his Chiddush, or Nevuah or something. V'chol Banayich, and all of us, Limudei Hashem are learning Torah. Back to the Tomer Devorah, Bakesher Torah. The Sfarim say that besides for Yachin and Boaz being Netzach and Hod, Yachin and Boaz were also, Netzach and Hoyd and Yachin and Boaz were also Moshe and Aaron. And it was also David and Shlomo. So what's the Moshe, Aaron? So let's look at the trifecta here. Netzach, Hoyd, keep the cheshbon. Moshe, Aaron, David, Shlomo. David was Netzach, Shlomo was Hoyd. Moshe was Netzach, Aaron was Hod. Netzach is Netzach, Hoyd is Hoyd. Yachin is Netzach, Boaz is Hod. So I want to explain, and this becomes very practical, very lemais. So now everything was up in the air. Let's talk tachlis over here. There's two parts to life. Certainly two parts to Yiddishkeit. There's the vision, and then there's the practical implementation. The vision, specifically, a lot of people have visions. Shtus, good. I don't know. Moshe's vision was a vision of Netzach. Moshe received the Torah from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Kadosh Baruch Hu is not a temporary situation. Everything Hashem says is automatically eternal, coming from an eternal being. So what Hashem said to Moshe was Netzach. But Moshe Rabbeinu, obviously I'm just saying this to be, obviously I'm not putting anybody down, not Moshe, not Aaron, but I'm just explaining the limitations of their roles. Moshe Rabbeinu was Netzach, but he was not the implementer. He was not the implementer. Moshe Rabbeinu could not bring Klal Yisrael into Eretz Yisrael. It wasn't because Netzach is not an implementation. Netzach is an ideologue. Netzach is a vision. So Moshe Rabbeinu said to HaKadosh Baruch Hu at the burning bush, Hashem said to him, "Speak to Paro, Leicha Paro, or else Fasayim." I'm not a spokesman. I'm not the one to, the Rosh Hashiva, I'm not the one to implement. So go to Aaron. Aaron, hu yeh neviecha. Aaron will be your mouthpiece. Navi. So Moshe was Netzach, and Aaron was the spokesman. So the implementer. He spoke to Paro. So he was Hod. Netzach and Hod. So Netzach and Hod is Moshe and Aaron. Yeah? You can't have, as Tomer Devorah tells us, that Netzach and Hod are independent concepts, but they're intertwined. You can't separate them. Because Netzach without Hod, Moshe Rabbeinu said, I can't go. Hod without Netzach, what am I implementing? Doesn't make any sense. So it requires, maybe one person could have both, that could be. But in this case, Netzach was one thing and Hod was another thing. Leichel Para had to be two. Had to be Moshe and Aaron. The problem of if you keep them independent, so the problem is then you have great vision and nothing gets done. So you have Netzach, a lot of Torah, but you're not going to get into Eretz Yisrael with just Netzach. You're not going to free the Jews from Mitzrayim with just Netzach. You have to have an implementation plan. You have to have Hod in place. It was all part of the plan. That was what he was teaching him. This is what he was teaching him. To have Hod without Netzach equals Egel Hazav. Because Moshe was not there, what am I implementing? So you end up with an Egel Hazav. So what's important here is that Moshe v'Aaron b'choy hanav, that Moshe and Aaron are independent concepts, if you will, but must be intertwined. Because you need Netzach and Hod, you need Moshe and you need Aaron. Otherwise, you have a great vision without implementation, or worse, maybe, you have implementation without the vision. You have the Egel Hazav. You look at, I speak at Tisha B'Av about the Pesel Micha, which was, Pesel Micha was the Unterste Shura that drove the that drove the Egel Hazav, and all through, it was all Pesel Micha. It was all this implementation, Tachlis, Lamaisa, without the charge of the Torah. This is what Avodah Zarah is. This is what Avodah Zarah is. But there's a Yetzer Hara for this, because Tachlis. So it comes out like it was not Moshe, but in fact it was Aaron that wore the big day kahuna. Oiz v'hadar lavusha. He was Midas HaHod. Midas HaHod was the one who had the beautiful ornamental begadim. He was the one who was able to actually work in the Beis HaMikdash Tachlis. That was all Midas HaHod. And also Aaron had the koach to be to make shalom, v'roidev shalom, oyev habriyos, karavan l'Torah. It says in Perek Avos. That was all the midah, having mistabek, having mitalmidav shel Aaron, oyev shalom, roidev shalom, shalom b'tzad atzmai is the midah of Hod. See, shalom is, just while we're here, to have shalom without Netzach is actually, I believe, a negative thing. I'm just thinking about the Middle East, or like just to have shalom. It's not real shalom if it doesn't have Netzach. To have shalom without Netzach is to compromise, and ultimately that structure caves in.
What's the definition of Hod?
So Hod, the definition, you really know the definition means the glory, the beauty, right? The beauty, Hod. Like Hadar. Splendor. I don't know what splendor means, but
what is it?
no, just like what?
So what is
The outer beauty. The outer beauty.
Tiferes is also.
Tiferes is also.
Tiferes, why? Tiferes is splendor. Tiferes is where Chesed and Gvura come together. It's also beauty. It's also beautiful. But Hod is the midah of the manifestation of Netzach. So if you have Netzach, it took me, by the way, I just want to, for full transparency, it took me years to understand this. I think I understood almost everything. I couldn't understand Hod until I finally went to Rav Scheinberg, and I never asked him these kind of things. And I said to him, "What's Hod?" So he said, "Like Aaron HaKohen, the implementation of Netzach." All right, glad that's easy. So this is a great book, if I may say so myself. I was like a bus, because here I explain Netzach and Hod, and it took years to come to the simple 2 pages in a 35 shekel book, but it took years to come to what Netzach and Hoid is and explained well here. But so here we have Moshe and Aaron, Netzach and Hoid. David HaMelech, let's take this a step further, conceived of the Beis HaMikdash but didn't build the Beis HaMikdash. Shlomo was the ultimate in Hoid.
It still could be open with the David, like I was saying.
Hmm?
It still could be open at the time of the beginning. It still could be open with the David.
That's right. You needed Netzach and Hoid. Sushar Moshechen. So you needed David to open up the gates. But it was Shlomo HaMelech who was the great implementer. He wasn't just the implementer of the Beis HaMikdash. He was the implementer of brought to Malchus Yisrael. David was a concept. Shlomo was Lamaisa. Shlomo, Shmo Kenu, he made deals and peace treaties with all the different. It was just like, if you read through the Tanakh, basic Shlomo HaMelech, we were the superpower at the time of Shlomo HaMelech. We were literally a superpower. We were Lahavdil, Russia, America. It was Israel trading millions and millions of cattle and wood and all kinds of things, and every nation just needed to get a piece of Israel, this was Shlomo HaMelech's chachma. His chachma was not just cutting babies in half. His chachma was about creating a world scene in the middle, in the known world. Really, he was basically Balach B'Kippah. Shlomo HaMelech. We never had anything like that. That was the implementation of David HaMelech's understanding or concept. So David HaMelech is like David HaMelech wrote Tehillim, but Shlomo HaMelech wrote Mishlei, Koheles, and Shir, very, very implemental.
But that's in the realm of Beis HaMikdash. I mean, Chutz Mizeh, David was a very practical person.
I'm not saying he wasn't practical, but his dreams were not realized. B'chlal. He died B'Yisur.
I'm saying when we examine Netzach and Hoid, is it just in the context of Shekhinah, or is it in a
Everything.
permanent context?
Look, there's Netzach people, there's Hoid people. It's I think like Gedolim, real Gedolim. So they're able to integrate into themselves, a Netzach and a Hod. Netzach and a Hod. The Chazon Ish was could take a human heart apart and put it back together again. It was. I'm not sure if it was complete Hoid because he didn't do it. He wasn't a surgeon, but he was able to give business advice and medical advice and everything like real Gedolei Ador, like is this culmination of Moshe Var, which is very difficult to be. What you find today more is you have these Netzach people, and then what do they call them? The Mishpach. The guy who's implementing, and they usually make a mess of everything.
So was Yeshua a combination? Was Yeshua a combination? Because he brought us in.
So Yeshua was very interesting because Yeshua was not Aaron. He was we spoke about the Pnei Halavana. He was the Pnei Halavana. So he was the implementer of Eretz Yisrael, and he was taking the difference. The difference between Yeshua and Aaron is that Yeshua culminated Netzach and Hoid, but on the one hand. But on the other hand, he did this v'ani v'af siyoid. He made himself into nothing. The reason why Yeshua was like Nispad Ka'alacha is that they thought of Yeshua as almost like a nobody, because all he was the moon. He was a reflection of Moshe Rabbeinu. So there was a Netzach going through a Hod. Complex thing, Yeshua. But let's stick with the easy one. Moshe and Aaron. For me, it's complex. You spent 4 years learning Yeshua, but the Netzach and Hoid of Moshe. So again, we have Netzach Yenikas Hanavim. So we have Netzach and Hod, and you have Moshe and Aharon, the visionary and the implementer, and then you have David and Aaron, David and Shlomo, which is the dream, the vision, and the Shlomo Melech, the implementer. And Shlomo Melech built the Beis Hamikdash, so he put up two pillars called Yachin. What's the pshat Yachin? Taich Yachin? Chana. And let's Taich Boaz. Yeah. So it was Yachin and Boaz, David and Shlomo, Moshe and Aaron. I was like, there's the Hachana and there's the implementation. Called them Yachin and Boaz. And that was what the Hachana for the Beis Hamikdash was, to walk through the Yachin and Boaz.
Sounds like Netzach should be on top of Hod, doesn't it? It's like the flow is coming down that way.
Yeah, that's an important question. Why are they side by side? Because it's Moshe v'Aaron. Melamed, the Gemara says, right? Rashi brings Melamed sheshkulim heim. Melamed sheshkulim heim. I just think it's so important that you can't have one without Haveloi Ha. You can't have Moshe without Aaron. You can't have Aaron without Moshe. There's Moshe's complaint and Aaron waiting around for Moshe to come. Aaron saw Moshe, okay, now I have what to implement. And there was never any kina between them, because it was very clear the two functions, the two separate functions.
Rabbi Yehuda Nasi was a combination of both.
Maybe Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who spoke about, was a culmination, different Gedolei Hadar, real serious Gedolei Hadar, a culmination of Netzach and Hod. And then you can come to, I think, Rabbi Kiva, a combination of Netzach and Hod. He was, on the one hand, he was the Basader, or one of the first Basader of Shas, and on the other hand, he was bringing Mashiach with Bar Kochba, right? He was supporting Bar Kochba. So it was all to lead to what he wanted with Bar Kochba, I repeat, was to get to be the Yesod. Okay. Am I clear with this, or am I confusing? Yeah.
We're starting the Moshe V'Aaron. What about Abraham and Sarah? I mean, why do we start?
You can start from Abraham and Sarah, because that's Chesed and Gvura. That's Chachma and Bina, meaning it was on a more ethereal level. There was no, Avram Avinu started, he built an oil, it was a shtickle Beis Hamikdash, and Kol Zman Shesarah Yakayim. Rashi says, as long as Sarah was alive, there was a Ner Tamid, Ner Dolav, Erev Shabbos, there was a Lechem Aponim, there was Challah in the tent, right? That's what it says. And when Yitzchak came, it was again, but it was a Beis Hamikdash in an earlier stage, in an earlier Gilgal, than the actual Beis Hamikdash. And the actual Beis Hamikdash was an earlier Gilgal than the second Beis Hamikdash. I don't know where that even fits in, but the Bayis Shlishi that we're going to have soon, so that's going to be a real Netzach Hod Yesod Malchus. Well, it's all about, just to make this simple, it's all about bringing the Shekhinah into this world. What we're learning here is the technology. How does it get there? And it just doesn't just get there. There has to be a strategy here, a derech, and the derech is, of course, Chesed and Gvur, Avram, Yitzchak, but the strategy here is Netzach v'Hod, and we need to implement Netzach v'Hod. So there's the Netzach. It's just so beautiful with the Zeros, how the Tomer Devorah starts out. Netzach v'Hod ksasam b'shutafim l'shneihem, Moshe v'Aaron, Malamet sheshkulein, uksasam miyuchadim, kol echad la'atzmai. But look at the Churban that happened when Moshe Rabbeinu went missing. And look at the Churban that happened when Moshe Rabbeinu was just Netzach, and there was no Hod, there was no implementation. He says Aaron, and he couldn't go in Teretz Yisrael. So that's the Netzach v'Hod. Now, what we have to discover on, what is it, Monday? Sunday is, and v'chol banayich limudei Hashem. It comes to Tomer Devorah, says that, you know how you get Netzach and Hod? Learn some Torah. So Torah, let's say this, that Torah is like this, that Torah is built in a Netzach and a Hod. Like you have the Netzach, the Nitzchias of Torah, and then you have the Halacha of Torah. It's just an amazing thing. It's Halacha l'maisa. And the real Torah, You know, we spent. I once heard from with my ears. I heard from Rabbi Yaacov Haber, Tzadikim. We're talking to a group of Vacher, but what's the right way to learn, and you know, all that stuff that Vacher talk about, like Derech Halimud and all that. So he said, "Zeir Pashut." I remember his words. It's very, very simple. He says, "Until you're 20 years old, you learn how to learn. After that, you learn." Hey, don't learn. So it means to say that what is learning, what is real learning? La suke shmaitza, leave it to Hilchasa. We don't have any professors in Klal Yisrael. It's a mistake. I mean, there's Rosh Yeshivas, but the learning Torah is La suke shmaitza, leave it to Hilchasa. And I'm starting with the Netzach, and I'm building all the way. I'm being mishtalshel all the way to halacha l'maisa. Can I pick up this? Can I move this? Can I wear this? Can I garden this? Can I eat that fruit? It has to come to this world, because that's Netzach and Hod. Also, like the visions, I think it's just very important that, like, if we have any visions of what should be, so like everybody, or at least most good people talk the talk, but very few people walk the walk. So, like, if people think that there should be, let's say, just giving an example, let's say people think there should be Achdus in Klal Yisrael, Yesher Koyach. Does anybody disagree? Does anybody disagree? Does the Prime Minister disagree? Does Lapid disagree? Who disagrees with? Does it's very hard to disagree? Everybody disagrees, but the Shiloh is who's doing it, you know. So there's like a lot of Netzach there, but no Hod. Soifa Batela. It's a garden. It's Soifa Batela. So I always say, like, I always say this. I always say, like, I hate Achdus. Like, what is that? Because that's like Hoyd without Netzach. You know, just we shall overcome. You know, it's a kumbaya. You know what I mean? This doesn't do it. It caves in. So to have caves in. I mean, look, I lived through the '60s. It's not there anymore. It just caves in, you know. But if you have the combination, just even personally in our life, and I think this is where the Tomer Devorah is going, to have a culmination of to have a healthy balance of vision and implementation, is to have Netzach and Hoyd. But like this is I don't know, this is my avodah, but I just wanted to be your avodah also. To take all the beautiful ideas, you know, Achdus, Torah, all the beautiful ideas, and build some Hod into it. Like, you got to really sit down and strategize, like, how are we going to actually do this? How's this actually going to come lamaisa? How's it going to come to fruition? And if you can't do it yourself, like that's not so bad, then you're a Moshe Rabbeinu. So then you need a partner. The Moshe Rabbeinu says, I need a partner. So he says, okay, you have a brother. Your brother is Aaron. He'll be your Navi. And together you'll free the Jewish people out of Mitzrayim. Tachlis, correct. Together you'll go into Eretz Yisrael. You know, together you'll be able to bring water for the people, and together you'll get the Torah. But the minute they split up, it was a bayah. So this is what we have to do. Like, you have to find our Netzach, we have to find our Hoy. Like, learn how to learn. That's
why we have the Temple Institute now.
That's one way of doing it. Okay, thank you very much. It's good to be back.